The silence of downtown Toronto shattered at 4:23 a.m. on December 15, 2023, as sirens wailed through snow-covered streets. Inside the 28th-floor condo overlooking Lake Ontario, paramedics discovered a scene that defied explanation. Wedding mehendi patterns still vibrant on lifeless fingers, rose petals scattered across marble floors now painted crimson. Traditional Indian wedding music played softly from a blood-spattered speaker, creating a haunting soundtrack to horror. Security footage revealed only 2 people entering the building that night, a radiant bride and devoted groom returning from their celebration. But only one voice called 911, trembling as he reported a home invasion gone wrong. Detective Sarah Morrison noted the groom's emergency call lasted exactly 47 seconds. She couldn't know that unraveling his carefully constructed lies would take 47 days, exposing an international conspiracy that had claimed dozens of lives across 3 continents. 6 months earlier, Priya Mehta embodied every immigrant family's sacrifice transformed into hope. At 25, she navigated her cramped Toronto apartment with quiet determination, video calling her Ahmedabad family each evening at 9 p.m. sharp. The familiar sounds of her mother's cooking and father's evening prayers created bridges across impossible distances. As a cybersecurity analyst earning $67,000 annually, Priya possessed skills most criminals feared: the ability to trace digital footprints, analyze patterns, decrypt hidden communications. Her father, a retired government clerk, had liquidated the family's modest gold inheritance to fund her immigration journey. Her mother tutored neighborhood children evenings to supplement Priya's living expenses. Brilliant with data but trusting with people, Priya respected traditional systems that had shaped generations. When her parents suggested exploring matrimonial platforms for a suitable match, she agreed eagerly. "Find someone who values our culture," she told them, "someone who'll honor our family's legacy." David Singh Malhotra's Sure to Connect premium profile seemed divinely crafted. 29 years old, Canadian citizen of Punjabi heritage, international business consultant, traditional family values. His photographs showed a thoughtful man with gentle eyes, always dressed conservatively, frequently at Gurudwaras or cultural celebrations. Their 6-month courtship unfolded like a fairy tale. David called punctually after 8 p.m., speaking fluent Gujarati that impressed her father deeply. He knew traditional songs, understood festival customs, discussed marriage as sacred family union rather than mere romantic partnership. But Priya's analytical mind occasionally detected inconsistencies her heart dismissed. Why did his Gujarati accent sometimes slip into different regional dialects? Why did he refuse video calls during certain hours, claiming client confidentiality? These questions flickered briefly before being overwhelmed by his thoughtful gestures and her family's wholehearted approval. What Priya couldn't see were David's meticulous preparation notes. Born David Kumar in Montreal to atheist parents who'd abandoned him at 16, he'd spent years studying Indian culture like an academic subject. His real expertise wasn't business consulting, it was psychological manipulation refined through 6 previous marriages. David Singh Malhotra existed only on paper and in performance. At 29, he'd perfected the art of becoming exactly what traditional families desired: successful enough to provide security, traditional enough to respect elders, Canadian enough to offer citizenship prospects, vulnerable enough to earn sympathy. His downtown Toronto condo was carefully staged theatre. IKEA furniture mixed strategically with authentic Indian artifacts purchased from estate sales. The leased BMW in his building's garage appeared respectable without screaming wealth. Business cards reading independent consultant, global trade relations, sounded impressive while revealing nothing verifiable. During video calls with Priya's family, David's cultural knowledge flowed effortlessly. He discussed 1990s Bollywood films with nostalgic accuracy, remembered religious festivals without consulting calendars, knew precisely which compliments would make conservative mothers beam with pride. His respectful courtship distance, no pressure for meetings, no inappropriate comments, convinced traditional parents their daughter had discovered a rare gem. The family story he'd constructed was heartbreaking and sympathetic. Loving parents who'd immigrated to Vancouver during the 1980s, built a successful small business, raised their devoted son with unwavering values. Tragically, they'd perished in a highway accident 18 months ago, leaving David emotionally devastated but determined to honor their memory through traditional family building. "I need what my parents had," he told Priya during one carefully scripted evening call. A partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, cultural pride. What Priya never suspected were the other laptops constantly running beside David during their conversations. Wednesday evenings and Sunday mornings weren't mysteriously busy. They were reserved for Anjali in Vancouver and Shreya in Calgary. Each woman received identical courtship scripts, modified only for regional preferences and family dynamics. This wasn't David's first arranged marriage. It wouldn't be his last. For Priya Mehta, it would be everything, and nothing, she'd dreamed. The Maharaja Banquet Hall buzzed with celebration on December 14, 2023. 200 guests filled the elegant Mississauga venue, decorated with marigold garlands and soft pink roses. The $40,000 budget created maximum impact, traditional enough to satisfy elderly relatives, sophisticated enough to impress Canadian-born cousins. Priya's parents had arrived from India 5 days earlier, overwhelmed with gratitude toward their son-in-law who'd handled arrangements flawlessly. David moved through pre-ceremony preparations like a seasoned performer, greeting uncles in regional Punjabi dialects, blessing aunties in classical Hindi, discussing business prospects with younger men using insider terminology he'd memorized. Two details seemed slightly unusual. David's parents remained conspicuously absent despite promising attendance, explained through sudden COVID complications in Vancouver. The wedding photographer, introduced simply as family friend Meera, seemed unusually focused on capturing detailed shots of Priya's jewelry, family interactions, and personal documentation. Surrounded by celebrations' intoxicating chaos, these minor inconsistencies dissolved into traditional Indian wedding joy. Priya glowed with complete happiness, finally feeling whole. She walked unknowingly into humanity's most sophisticated trap. At 11:47 p.m., the newlyweds finally reached David's Bay Street condo, Toronto's glittering skyline sprawling endlessly below floor-to-ceiling windows. The 28th floor unit was tastefully decorated but not ostentatious. Carefully chosen furnishings mixed with strategically placed Indian artifacts suggesting comfortable middle-class success rather than suspicious wealth. Priya moved through the space with nervous excitement, her elaborate red lehenga rustling as she explored what would become her new home. Traditional expectations weighed heavily, the respectful consummation of their sacred marriage, beginning their shared life journey, perhaps initial conversations about children and eventually bringing her aging parents to Canada's safety. But David's demeanor had shifted dramatically since departing the wedding venue. Gone was the attentive groom who'd fed her ceremonial sweets during religious rituals. Instead, he paced the living room with increasing agitation, nursing whiskey while his phone buzzed incessantly against the marble coffee table. "Sorry, Jan," he muttered without meeting her eyes as another notification chimed urgently. "Major client crisis overseas. You understand how international business operates." Priya nodded sympathetically, though instinct whispered warnings. What kind of business emergency required immediate attention at midnight on someone's wedding night? As David stepped onto the balcony for what he claimed was an urgent conference call, speaking in hushed, angry tones she couldn't decipher, Priya began unpacking wedding gifts they'd transported home. While arranging ornate silver items across the dining table, Priya accidentally knocked over a decorative wooden box from the bedroom dresser. Wedding cards scattered across hardwood floors, along with something that made her blood freeze. A second iPhone, identical to the device David constantly carried. Curiosity overwhelmed respect for marital privacy. The phone wasn't password protected, a careless mistake that would prove catastrophic. The message history made her stomach plummet into free fall. Package number 3 delivered successfully. Payment processing as discussed. Client extremely satisfied with selection quality. The response chilled her soul. Excellent execution. Begin Phase 2 timeline immediately. Network operations expanding to Australian markets. Priya's hands trembled violently as she scrolled through additional messages. The photo gallery contained hundreds of images, pictures from their video calls, candid shots from their few in-person meetings, even photographs from tonight's wedding ceremony she didn't remember posing for. But the labels were horrifying. Priya Mehta, cybersecurity expert, work visa until 2026, $67,000 salary, no family support in Canada, premium target. Her blood transformed to Arctic ice as she discovered similar folders for other women. Anjali Sharma, photographs from what appeared to be another traditional Indian wedding, meticulously labeled with bank account details, immigration status, and family vulnerability assessments. Shreya Patel, candid surveillance shots clearly taken without knowledge, detailed notes about her Mumbai family's substantial wealth and trusting nature. Anjali's folder bore a timestamp that stopped Priya's heart. Completed, October 15, 2022. With shaking fingers, she Googled Anjali Sharma death Toronto 2022. The obituary materialized immediately. Beloved daughter Anjali Sharma, 24, died tragically in household accident just 3 months after marriage to devoted husband David Singh. Survived by grieving parents in Chennai and loving spouse. Identical David Singh. Identical wedding photography style. Identical tragic household accident. Shreya's folder showed recent activity, messages about Phase 1 complete, initiating Phase 2 protocols dated merely 2 weeks earlier. She remained alive somewhere in Calgary, completely unaware her marriage was actually a death sentence with predetermined timeline. The pattern crystallized with horrifying clarity. 6 months careful courtship, traditional wedding ceremony, 3 months establishing marital legitimacy, then convenient accident. Priya's mind calculated frantically. Their wedding occurred December 14th. Following the established pattern, her accident was scheduled for March 15, 2024. She wasn't a beloved wife. She was merchandise, package number 3 with a 91-day expiration date. The balcony door slid open just as Priya finished reading final messages about disposal protocols and insurance maximization. David stepped inside, his earlier nervousness replaced by something infinitely darker when he discovered her sitting surrounded by evidence from his operational phone. "You weren't meant to find that," he said quietly, his voice completely transformed from the loving tone he'd maintained throughout their courtship. The carefully practiced Gujarati accent had vanished entirely, replaced by flat, emotionless Canadian pronunciation. "That phone belongs to my business partner," he lied reflexively. "Those photographs are for our immigration consulting services. Highly confidential client documentation." But Priya was no longer the trusting girl who'd believed every romantic word during their 6-month deception. Her cybersecurity training engaged like emergency protocols. She was processing data patterns, analyzing threat levels, calculating survival probabilities with analytical precision. Anjali wasn't an accident, she stated with quiet certainty, displaying the phone showing the obituary. "You murdered her. Exactly like you're planning to murder me." David's carefully constructed mask disintegrated completely. The loving husband expression dissolved, revealing something predatory and calculating underneath. He settled across from her with the casual confidence of an apex predator cornering wounded prey. "Anjali became problematic," he explained matter-of-factly. "Started demanding access to financial accounts, wanted to control her immigration paperwork independently. Asked too many questions about my business travels and unexplained income sources." He shrugged with disturbing indifference. "She forgot her designated role in our arrangement." The casual cruelty in his tone made Priya's skin crawl with revulsion. "This is organized crime, isn't it? You're not the decision-maker, just an employee." David smiled without warmth, pleased by her analytical accuracy. "Exceptionally intelligent. That's precisely why you were selected above other candidates. Smart enough to handle the technical work we require. Naive enough to trust traditional family marriage arrangements. Your immigration status makes you perfect. If something unfortunate happens, authorities won't investigate too thoroughly. Just another tragic accident involving a lonely immigrant." Priya forced herself to appear defeated, nodding slowly as if accepting inevitable fate. "What do you need me to do?" "Maintain the perfect wife performance. Handle some financial transfers using your cybersecurity access. Assist with documentation forgery. Prove you're more valuable alive than dead." He leaned forward with predatory intensity. "Cooperate completely, and perhaps you'll survive longer than Anjali managed." But behind her submissive expression, Priya's mind raced through escape scenarios. The cybersecurity expert who defended corporate networks against international hackers wasn't surrendering without deploying every skill she possessed. Over the following hour, David's arrogance became Priya's salvation. Believing she was trapped and psychologically broken, he began revealing operational details with the casual pride of someone describing a successful business venture to a trusted colleague. Sure to Connect Premium isn't merely a matrimonial website, he explained while pouring another whiskey. It's a sophisticated hunting platform designed to identify and isolate perfect targets. We analyze specific demographic profiles, educated women on temporary visas, earning substantial salaries, from traditional families who won't question expedited marriage arrangements. The methodology was chillingly systematic. Phase 1 involved extensive digital reconnaissance, family financial assessments, immigration timeline pressures, social connection mapping within Canada. Phase 2 was psychological courtship, with operatives like David playing meticulously crafted roles designed to appeal to conservative parents' deepest hopes. Phase 3 was marriage, always rushed due to manufactured visa emergencies or family health crises. The real profit isn't from their modest salaries, David continued, clearly enjoying her mounting horror. It's the life insurance policies we arrange during marriage documentation chaos. $750,000 per bride, sometimes exceeding $1 million. Amazing what people will sign when overwhelmed with wedding planning stress. Priya's stomach churned as she remembered documents she'd signed so trustingly. David retrieved a tablet, displaying spreadsheets tracking multiple simultaneous operations across Canada. Shreya Patel in Vancouver was listed as Phase 2, financial integration 87% complete. Her completion timeline showed final processing scheduled for January 15, 2024, exactly 1 month away. Shreya has already transferred her inheritance to joint investment accounts, David explained with disgusting satisfaction. Exceptionally trusting girl. Believes her devoted husband is helping her diversify assets for their future children's education. The operation's true leader wasn't David but Meera Kapoor, the mysterious photographer from their wedding celebration. A former immigration lawyer disbarred for systematic fraud, she'd constructed this network over 7 years, recruiting young men like David to perform as perfect traditional grooms. Meera possesses supernatural talent for psychological profiling, David revealed. She identified you at a Diwali community event 3 years ago, long before we initiated contact. Studied your social media patterns, learned your family dynamics, designed the perfect approach methodology. But the network's scope extended far beyond individual marriages. They operated an international franchise spanning 12 countries, specifically targeting communities where arranged marriage traditions created trust vulnerabilities. Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, even parts of the United States, anywhere traditional families valued matrimonial arrangements over independent courtship. We've processed over 200 women across 7 years, David added with revolting pride. 93% completion rate. You represent our most profitable demographic, technical skills, immigration dependency, family isolation, substantial earning potential. The victim profile was terrifyingly specific. Women aged 23 to 30, on temporary work or study visas, earning $50,000 to $100,000 annually, from conservative families who valued arranged marriages over love matches. Women who would trust family-vetted selections and sign legal documents without excessive scrutiny. Your cybersecurity expertise makes you especially valuable, David continued. We need someone to help us expand into cryptocurrency fraud, government database penetration, corporate network infiltration. Cooperate fully, and you might survive 2 years instead of 3 months. While David outlined their technological expansion plans, Priya's training activated like emergency software protocols. She needed digital evidence, secure communication channels, and multiple contingency strategies. Her cybersecurity background had taught her that complex networks always contained exploitable vulnerabilities. Pretending to listen submissively, she activated her phone's advanced recording application, military-grade software she'd installed for work presentations. Her finger movements appeared like nervous fidgeting, but she was systematically documenting everything while simultaneously uploading files to encrypted cloud storage networks. I need to use the bathroom, she said quietly, maintaining her defeated posture perfectly. Don't take long, David replied, too intoxicated and confident to suspect deception. In the bathroom, Priya worked with desperate efficiency. She uploaded recorded confessions to 7 different international cloud servers, ensuring multiple jurisdictional backups. Then she composed coded messages to 3 different contacts: her best friend Kavya, her cybersecurity supervisor, and her cousin studying at University of Toronto. The message read, "Emergency wedding celebration complications. Bay Street Lakefront Residence 2847. David Singh Malhotra, extremely dangerous situation developing. Contact authorities if no communication by 6 a.m. Access cloud folder wedding documentation for critical evidence files." Returning to the living room, Priya spotted the ceremonial kirpan among their wedding gifts, a traditional Sikh ceremonial blade that David's fake religious persona had required them to receive from community elders. She palmed it while pretending to organize scattered papers. "I should call my parents," she said with authentic trembling in her voice. "Tell them how happy we are. They'll worry if they don't hear from us." David nodded approvingly, pleased by her apparent psychological surrender. But instead of dialing India, Priya called Toronto Police Emergency Services, activating speaker mode while pretending it was an international call. "Hello, Papa," she said in fluent Gujarati while the English-speaking dispatcher heard everything clearly. "I'm at Bay Street Apartment Building 2847 with David Singh Malhotra. Something terrible is happening here. Please help your daughter immediately." The experienced dispatcher immediately recognized the coded distress signal, initiating trace protocols while keeping Priya connected. David's alcohol-impaired brain slowly processed what he was hearing. The dispatcher's responses were clearly English, not Gujarati. Priya's phone screen displayed a local Toronto number, not an international connection to India. "What the hell are you doing?" he snarled, lunging toward the phone with sudden violence. Priya dodged skillfully, but David glimpsed cloud storage notifications still appearing on her screen. Upload successful. Backup completed. Evidence synchronized across multiple international servers. "You've recorded everything," he realized with dawning panic. "You've destroyed 7 years of work." The carefully constructed empire that had generated millions in profit was crumbling in real time. If Priya's evidence reached international authorities, the entire network would face exposure. Meera's operation, Shreya's current predicament, David's previous murders, international partnerships, everything would unravel simultaneously. "Meera will eliminate me if this operation fails," David said, speaking more to himself than Priya. "She doesn't tolerate operational failures." Mrs. Patterson next door heard the first crash as David hurled his whiskey glass against the wall, followed immediately by Priya's terrified scream as he tackled her to the floor with murderous intent. The elderly woman grabbed her phone, dialing 911 while violent struggle sounds echoed through the building's thin walls. "Someone's being murdered in the apartment next door," she told the emergency dispatcher, her voice shaking with terror. The final battle for Priya's life was beginning. The tackle sent both combatants crashing through the glass coffee table, wedding cards scattering like fallen snow while crystal shards embedded in exposed skin. But David had catastrophically underestimated his intended victim. After researching Anjali's household accident online, Priya had secretly enrolled in advanced Krav Maga training, learning lethal techniques specifically designed for smaller defenders fighting larger attackers. As David's hands locked around her throat with murderous intent, Priya drove her knee upward with surgical precision, connecting with his solar plexus in a strike that expelled air from his lungs explosively. His death grip loosened just enough for her to roll away, grabbing the ceremonial kirpan she'd strategically positioned behind throw pillows. "You cannot escape this, Priya," David gasped between painful breaths, blood trickling from where he'd bitten his tongue during her counterattack. "Even if you somehow kill me, Meera will hunt you across continents. She has connections everywhere, police departments, immigration offices, legal systems. You'll never find safety." But Priya's analytical mind was calculating survival probabilities rather than processing threats. The emergency dispatcher remained connected, recording everything for evidence. Mrs. Patterson's 911 call would bring backup within minutes. She needed to survive approximately 8 more minutes for help to arrive. David lunged again with renewed fury, this time wielding a heavy crystal vase from the mantelpiece, an expensive wedding gift from her trusting parents. The bitter irony wasn't lost on either combatant as traditional symbols of marital blessing transformed into instruments of attempted murder. The battle raged through the apartment like a destructive hurricane. In the kitchen, Priya utilized her smaller size to dodge around the central island while David swung wildly with the crystal weapon. Marigold garlands from their wedding celebration still decorated the refrigerator, now witnessing attempted homicide instead of marital joy. She managed to slash his forearm with the curtain, drawing a scream of rage and genuine pain. But the ceremonial blade was designed for religious ritual rather than combat effectiveness, barely penetrating his thick shirt sleeve. "You've destroyed everything," David roared with escalating fury, hurling the crystal vase. It exploded against the wall inches from Priya's head, sending dangerous shards across expensive marble flooring. In the bedroom, their framed wedding photographs watched silently as David cornered her near the dresser. Priya grabbed handfuls of gold jewelry from the morning's ceremonies, heavy traditional bangles and ornate necklaces, hurling them at his face to purchase precious survival seconds. Her phone, still clutched desperately in her left hand, continued uploading evidence to international cloud networks. Each completed file transfer represented another piece of evidence that would survive even if she didn't. The progress indicator showed 91% completion as David's hand closed around her ankle, dragging her down violently. "Time's finished, package number 3, he snarled with predatory satisfaction. But Priya had one final cybersecurity protocol to execute. As David pinned her against the bedroom wall, his hands finding her throat again with deadly purpose, she activated her phone's emergency beacon, a feature that would broadcast her exact location to every law enforcement agency in North America while simultaneously uploading her complete digital life to permanent servers. "You're too late," she whispered as consciousness began fading. "Everything's already uploaded. Mira's entire network, all the victims, international connections, it's all documented now." David's grip tightened fatally, but Priya's finger found her phone's final protocol. With her last coherent thought, she transmitted a targeted message to Vancouver police: Shreya Patel immediate danger. 1247, West End Avenue. Raj Kumar using identical pattern. Save her. The cloud upload reached 100% completion just as David's strangulation succeeded. Every recorded confession, every photograph of victim files, every detail of Mira's international operation was now safely stored across multiple continents, beyond anyone's reach or destruction. "Shreya," Priya whispered with her final breath, blood trickling from bitten lips. "Save Shreya." The name struck David like a physical blow to his chest. Priya knew about Shreya's situation. If she'd managed to upload evidence about Vancouver operations, Mira's entire international empire faced complete exposure. The woman who'd built this sophisticated network through meticulous planning and flawless execution would face destruction because one bride had fought back with unexpected skills. David staggered backward, staring down at Priya's lifeless form surrounded by debris from their fraudulent marriage. Wedding bangles lay scattered across blood-stained marble, their traditional gold now contaminated with violence. The ceremonial curtain had fallen from her hand, its blade reflecting Toronto's city lights streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. His phone buzzed with an incoming text from Mira: Phase 2 completion status? Accelerating Vancouver timeline for maximum efficiency. David stared at the message, realizing he couldn't respond truthfully. The operation was completely compromised, but admitting failure to Mira meant signing his own death warrant. The woman who systematically eliminated inconvenient brides wouldn't hesitate to dispose of a compromised operative who'd jeopardized everything. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance, growing progressively closer. Time to deliver the performance of his life. At 4:23 a.m., Toronto police officers Martinez and Chen responded to Mrs. Patterson's frantic emergency call about domestic violence next door. They discovered David sitting in his destroyed living room, cradling a superficial head wound while trembling convincingly. "Thank God you're here," he sobbed with Oscar-worthy performance. "There was an intruder, a masked man. He attacked my wife, attacked me when I tried protecting her. I think he was targeting her jewelry. You know how these criminals follow Indian wedding celebrations. Officers found Priya's body in the bedroom, surrounded by scattered gold jewelry and broken glass. The scene initially appeared consistent with David's fabricated story. A robbery gone violently wrong, a brave husband injured while defending his new bride. But crucial details contradicted his narrative. No signs of forced entry anywhere in the building. No missing valuables despite thousands of dollars in wedding jewelry lying exposed. David's wounds were suspiciously minor for someone who'd allegedly fought a murderous intruder. Most importantly, Priya's phone lay beside her body, screen still glowing with upload confirmations and emergency beacon signals. The device remained connected to emergency services, having recorded the entire confrontation, including David's detailed confessions about previous murders and international operations. Detective Sarah Morrison arrived at 5:17 a.m., surveyed the contradictory evidence with experienced eyes, and quietly placed David Singh Malhotra under intensive investigative surveillance. The complete truth was already uploaded to servers across 3 continents, waiting to destroy everything he'd helped build. At 6:47 a.m. on December 15th, Kavya Sharma burst through the entrance of Toronto Police 52 Division, clutching her phone with trembling hands. She'd received Priya's coded distress message and hadn't slept, monitoring news feeds for any reports from Bay Street area. "My best friend sent this before she died," Kavya told Detective Sarah Morrison, displaying the cryptic message about David Singh Malhotra and cloud storage folder labeled wedding documentation. What Morrison discovered in those digital files revolutionized everything. Hours of crystal-clear audio captured David's detailed confessions about murdering Anjali, the systematic insurance fraud schemes, and specific plans for Shreya's elimination. Advanced phone record analysis revealed a sophisticated international network spanning 12 countries, with hundreds of burner devices coordinating operations. The breakthrough came when cybersecurity analysts traced the operational phone found at the crime scene. Its GPS history revealed regular meetings at a photography studio in Mississauga, Meera Kapoor's business headquarters. Cross-referencing her extensive client database with international missing persons reports painted a horrifying picture. 4 to 7 young Indian women who'd vanished after arranged marriages, all professionally photographed by Meera's studios across 3 countries. At 2:15 p.m., Vancouver police received Priya's emergency alert about Shreya Patel. They found her in a West End apartment, alive but heavily drugged, with her husband Raj Kumar preparing to stage an elaborate carbon monoxide poisoning. Identical David Singh methodology, executed by a different operative using the same psychological manipulation playbook. Meera Kapoor was apprehended at Toronto Pearson Airport attempting to board a flight to Dubai, carrying a suitcase containing $4.7 million in cash, multiple fake passports, and encrypted drives containing client databases spanning international operations. In her photography studio, investigators uncovered a sophisticated criminal enterprise, industrial-scale document forgery equipment, detailed psychological profiles on vulnerable women, and operational manuals for training perfect husband operatives. The scope was staggering beyond initial comprehension. 47 confirmed victims over 7 years across 12 countries, with 31 deaths previously ruled accidental, until Priya's evidence forced international reinvestigation. The network had stolen over $23 million through life insurance fraud, identity theft, cryptocurrency manipulation, and direct financial exploitation of victims' families. Digital forensics revealed the operation's true scale extended globally. Similar networks operated throughout Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and parts of the United States, anywhere traditional arranged marriage customs could be systematically exploited for profit. Meera had franchised murder, creating detailed training programs to replicate her methodology across international borders. Phone record analysis uncovered communications with organized crime syndicates in Mumbai, Toronto, Vancouver, Sydney, and London. This wasn't simply marriage fraud, it was international human trafficking disguised as matrimonial services, generating millions in profit annually. The revelation devastated Brampton's tight-knit Indian community beyond repair. Families who had joyously celebrated David and Priya's wedding just 60 hours earlier now realized they'd blessed a serial killer's performance. The Maharaja Banquet Hall, where their reception had occurred, was sealed as a crime scene while investigators collected evidence from guests who'd unknowingly photographed an international predator. Priya's parents, Rajesh and Sunita Mehta, arrived from Ahmedabad to confront unimaginable nightmare. The daughter they'd proudly given in traditional marriage had been murdered by the man they'd embraced as their son. Sacred customs that had protected families for generations had been weaponized against their child with scientific precision. "We trusted systems that raised us for centuries," Rajesh told international reporters through tears. "How do we warn other parents that our holiest traditions are being used to murder our children?" The cultural trauma spread like wildfire through arranged marriage networks across multiple continents. Shaoda Connect Premium's entire client base evaporated overnight as families questioned every profile, every perfect match, every respectful suitor who seemed impossibly ideal. Media attention exploded internationally. BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, and major Indian news networks provided continuous coverage of immigration policies that inadvertently created perfect victims. The hashtag #JusticeForPriya trended globally for weeks, with immigrant women sharing experiences of isolation and systematic vulnerability. Community leaders across multiple countries organized emergency response systems. The Guru Nanak Gurdwara in Brampton established 24/7 multilingual helplines for women trapped in suspicious marriages. Immigration lawyers volunteered thousands of hours for free consultations. Technology workers created secure applications for reporting domestic abuse without compromising visa status. Anjali Sharma's family finally received justice they'd been denied for over 2 years. Her death in October 2022, originally ruled accidental electrocution, was reclassified as premeditated murder. Their civil lawsuit against Shaoda Connect Premium and associated networks resulted in a $127 million settlement that forced fundamental changes to matrimonial site verification processes worldwide. David Singh Malhotra's trial began in September 2024, becoming one of Canada's most intensively watched criminal proceedings. Faced with overwhelming digital evidence, every confession recorded, every financial transaction documented, every victim identified, his defense team negotiated a plea agreement to avoid potential death penalty debates. He received life imprisonment without any possibility of parole for 7 counts of first-degree murder, with additional consecutive sentences for fraud, identity theft, human trafficking, and immigration violations, ensuring he would never experience freedom again. Meera Kapoor fought all charges until prosecutors revealed evidence of 43 additional networks operating internationally under her direct guidance and training. She accepted a life sentence in exchange for cooperating with global investigations that resulted in 312 arrests across 17 countries. The legal aftermath fundamentally transformed immigration landscapes worldwide. Marriage-based visa applications now require mandatory 6-month cooling-off periods, independent